Mr. Chair Russell. I'm in the process of sending it live.
Wonderful.
And the meeting is live, and I'm just starting to record.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Andrea. I'd like to call the November 8th, 2021 meeting of the Northwest Community Council to order. It is 6:01. As is standard with the virtual meetings, I'd like to proceed and check everybody's audio and video just to make sure that we don't have any further connection issues. So let's start with District 1, Councillor Daigle-Gammon. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, and colleagues, staff, and public. Nice to be with you all this evening.
Thank you. And Councillor Lovelace, District 13.
Good evening. Pleased to be here as well. Great to see everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you. District 14, Councillor Blackburn.
Good evening. Welcome, everyone, and hoping to hear from lots of folks from the public today about the cases that we have before us. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Councillor Outfit, Deputy Mayor, District 16.
Good evening, all. Pleasure to be here, and I apologize. I should have had my puppy on like Lisa. She's a good example to all of us, so my apologies. I'll try and do better tomorrow.
Super. Thank you. So at this point, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of October 4th, 2021. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I actually have an amendment, sir.
Okay, but let's get the motion on the floor first.
All right, I'll move to put them on the floor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Blackburn. Is there a seconder?
I can second.
Thank you, Councillor Daigle-Gammon. Go ahead, Councillor Lovelace.
Thank you. Just at the top of page 5, if staff can remove that extra wording, it should be from rather than form from.
Thank you for that, Councillor Lovelace. I will make that amendment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So that is I don't know of any other way to do this than saying a motion for an amendment to the minutes. Roxanne, perhaps you could correct me on that if required.
I can move that amendment if it's necessary.
Okay.
Actually, we don't have to have it amended as a formal motion. We just would pass the minutes as amended instead of as presented.
So I'll move the acceptance of the minutes as amended.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillors Outfit and Lovelace. Any further amendments or errors or omissions, I suppose? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, say nay. Nobody's left, so here we go. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the order of business and approval of additions and deletions. Can I have someone move that, please?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lovelace.
Second.
I saw Councillor Blackburn second it first. Over to Andrea.
Yes, Chair Russell. I just wanted to note that there are no additions from the clerk's office. However, item 13.1.1, which is case 20401, updating the planning documents for Bedford West Sub Area 10, Kearney Lake Road, Bedford and Halifax, is being deleted as the staff report for this item requires additional updates.
Okay. Thank you very much. So that is removing 13.1.1. Are there any other changes or requests from the committee? In that case, all in favor of the amended agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Great, thank you very much. The next item on the order of business is business arising out of the minutes, and there is none. A call for declaration of conflicts of interest. Seeing none. Motions of reconsideration is none. Motions of rescission is none. Consideration of deferred business is none. Notices of tabled matters is none. And so the next item on the agenda is public hearings, and we are in 10.1.1, case 22820, amendments to the development agreement for Hanwell Drive, Sunset Ridge subdivision in Middle Sackville. And At this point, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today for the virtual public hearing. The order of events for this virtual hearing will be the same as a regular public hearing. We'll start with the staff presentation, give the applicant an opportunity to present via Zoom, and then we will go into the public hearing speakers list. As a reminder to all speakers and those watching from home, in order to have signed up as a speaker, the deadline was 4:30 p.m. on the day prior to this hearing, which was Friday, November 5th. There are 3 speakers registered for this public hearing. So over to the clerk. Do we have any correspondence for this public hearing?
Yes, Chair Russell. Correspondence was received for item 10.1.1 and circulated to Northwest Community Council.
Okay, thank you very much. And at this point, we do have Paul Sampson here for a presentation. So, Paul, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of council. Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen and start the presentation. Okay, Mr. Chair, can you see that?
We can, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. So case number 22820 is an application to amend the development agreement, Sunset Ridge at Hanwell Drive and Swindon Drive, Middle Sackville. The applicant is WM Affairs and Associates on behalf of the property owner. The property is located at Hanwell, Swindon Drive, and backs onto Margison Drive in Middle Sackville. And this is just a image of the site, just to give you an idea of the location. I'm sure people are familiar. This is just a close-up. So the site fronts on Hanwell Drive. It's approximately 1.4 acres in size. It's currently vacant. And this is an image of the location, the site on the left-hand side, one of the 2 existing apartment buildings in the rear of this image. And there's some existing houses along Hanwell Drive. Just this image is a little bit out of date, just to let you know. You can see Margison Drive in the background over here. In terms of the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw, the zoning is comprehensive development district. The site's designated rural residential under the planning strategy. That designation allows for service to comprehensive development by agreement, and the policies are UR10 and IM13. Like I said, the site is currently vacant. The policies, I'll go over those in a minute. The policies that allow the comprehensive development district apply as well to any amendments to the development agreement. So this is just an image from the existing development agreement. The site is designated as commercial under the Sunset Ridge agreement. The future development of the site under that agreement is to be subject to the C2 zone requirements with a couple of exceptions, but the uses that are permitted are not the full range of uses in the C2 zone. They're limited to retail and food stores, restaurants. It does accept drive-through restaurants, but full service sit-down restaurants and takeout are permitted. Offices, financial, service shops and personal service shops, and commercial schools. So there's a range of uses, but not the full uses that are permitted in the C2 zone. This site potentially could be subdivided under the existing agreement, likely between, it could be developed as a single lot, or it could be developed likely up to 3 lots. So the proposal is to change it from commercial to a residential building with ground floor commercial space. So the proposal is a 52-unit building of 4 stories. The ground floor commercial space would be approximately 2,760 square feet. You can see in the left, on the right side of this image, is where the commercial would be located. Most of the parking would be underground, but there would be surface parking for the commercial spaces and likely visitors to the building. The proposal also includes outdoor amenity space. The amenity space in total is about 14,000 square feet. That also includes a space in the building as well. And the remainder of the site that's not taken up by building and parking and walkways would be dedicated to just landscape space. So this is an image of the front elevation. On the right there, you can see the commercial space. And this just gives you an idea of the rear and the side elevations as well. So the policies in the planning strategy lay out the issues that council should consider when making a decision on a development agreement or any amendment to a development agreement. And so these are things like land uses, building height and appearance, the amount of coverage it takes up on a lot, and the general compatibility of the proposal with the neighborhood. Adequacy of services, sewer and water services, traffic generation that's from the development itself, the proposed development itself, as well as the driveway accesses to in and out of the site and parking, environmental issues like stormwater, and a few other things, general maintenance, storage, signage, and things like that. And more or less any land use issues that come into play. So we did have engagement. We did a mail out of a fact sheet mail out to residents in the area. The result of that was that, and this is just a short list of kind of some general comments. Generally, a lot of the comments were negative. There was a lot of, preference to retain the existing agreement with the commercial uses instead of having more apartments. Concerns about traffic, especially speeding and safety, noise and debris during construction, and things like vandalism and thefts that are happening in the neighborhood. Also concerned with loss of views of the sunset with the building in place, and concerns with the density of the development. There were also comments about improving the development by, improving the building appearance and the landscaping on the site, adding some, more vegetation and privacy measures. And so those were some of the things the applicant focused on. So there were some amendments to the plans, and the site plan and landscaping. A landscaping plan was added, and there would be a more detailed one provided at the permitting stage. So we mailed out. This was prior to the public hearing. This would have been the public consultation stage. We mailed out 122 notices. Received about 44 emails back and a couple of phone calls. There were over 250 views on the website, just move on. So on November 4th of 2020, this went to the Planning Advisory Committee, and they recommended that council refuse the application. This is their recommendation. It's on page 3 of the staff report, but I understand you also have a copy of that submitted by Andrea. So in terms of the proposed amendments, these are some of the issues that council can consider and that staff considered in looking at the proposal. So the height is limited to 4 stories. What we did is we looked at kind of compared it, the proposal to what could happen under the existing agreement if the site was developed with commercial buildings. So commercial buildings are permitted at a maximum of 35 feet in height, and as well as houses can go up as high as 35 feet. The minimum side yard, for example, that's closest to the nearest house would be a 15-foot side yard. So in this case, the applicant has set back the building at least 30 feet from the nearest sideline, but also it's probably about 80 feet. The building location is probably about 80 feet from the nearest building, like the nearest house. So there was some kind of careful consideration to the placement of the building on the site to keep it away from the residential buildings on Hanwell Drive. Also, in terms of landscaping and tree retention, well, there's not tree retention on the site, but there's going to be planting of trees and landscaping of all areas, like I said, that do not include building or parking and driveway areas. In terms of traffic and density, there was a traffic impact statement submitted. Our staff have reviewed that. Halifax Water has also looked at the density calculations, and so there were no concerns raised with regards to density. Although the residential density of the subdivision would increase, technically the density when compared to a commercial development is very similar. So the Halifax Water reviewed those calculations and basically compared what could happen in an as-of-right scenario to this proposal, and basically said there's not much difference. So those are some of the things that staff considered in coming up with a recommendation to council. So we recommend that council approve the proposed amending development agreement, and I can answer any questions you have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good. Thank you very much, Paul. For members of council, Paul, you're still sharing your screen. Thank you. For members of council, if you would like to put your names in the chat to ask any questions, then that would be best. Go ahead, Councillor Blackburn.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So just to clarify with this site that we're talking about tonight is close to, but not part of the greater comprehensive development district process that's now in full swing, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I guess if you're talking about the Murchison Drive master planning study that's currently
correct.
Yeah. So this is so the current development of Sunset Ridge sits just outside of that master plan area, and the master plan area includes the remaining land. So literally across Swindon Drive, on the opposite side of Swindon Drive, is the remaining lands that are owned by Armco, and those lands are part of the master plan study.
Okay, thank you. And don't know if this is a question for Paul or whether this is a question for legal, but I'm just curious, any decision that is made here tonight, could it be overturned by this new provincial housing task force that was just enacted?
That's probably a question for legal.
Does it still qualify as a question of clarification?
I'm not familiar with the task force, but the decision could be appealed in the normal course to the utility review board. So I haven't reviewed what the province has brought in, so I can't really provide an opinion on that.
Okay, no, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Blackburn. I don't see any further questions of clarification from Paul Sampson. So at this point, I would like to open the public hearing. And the applicant, Cesar Sella, if you're here, and I see you, I did see you online. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Daigle Gammon. So before the public hearing is open then,
Yes,
Councillor Daigle Gammon, go ahead for your
Thank you so
question of
very much.
clarification
Yes.
from Paul Sampson. Thank you.
Yes, and I apologize for that. I lost my chat box to be able to type it in. So thank you for the presentation. My question was, I have two questions. One is the amenity space that they say is 14,000 square feet and said part of it was within the building. So I was just curious about that. And then the other one was that where it is 80 feet from the nearest home, what would be a typical distance that you would see from a residential street to something like this?
The typical distance is similar to what you'd see in both urban and suburban contexts, and it's likely more than that. What you find in urban areas is sometimes you find proposed buildings that are very close to houses. Suburban settings, the setbacks tend to be a little greater than that, but this would be comparable to any other suburban setting. The property line nearest to the nearest, I guess, the nearest host to the east is separated by the driveway to the adjacent apartment building. So if you took the distance of the building setback and added the driveway on, it's probably in the range of about 80 feet, give or take. I mean, I didn't measure it exact, but that would be, I would say that would exceed, be equal to or exceed other suburban type of setbacks for this type of development.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the first part of the question.
Oh, it was just about the amenity space. It was a curiosity. You said 14,000 and you said part of that is within the building?
Yeah, a small part of that would be like an amenity room, like a party room or something like that for residents.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Daigle Gammon. Excuse me, back to the agenda now, and I'd like to open the public hearing, second attempt. And at this point, I'd like to invite Cesar Sala to address council. Mr. Sala, you have 10 minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of Northwest Community Council, good evening. My name is Cesar Sala. I am an engineer with WM Ferris Architects. I want to start by thanking Paul Sampson and HRM staff for their collaboration on this file, and thanking you for your consideration. Can I please ask staff to put image 1A?
And we can see that now.
Okay, thank you. So as you know, the site under consideration is located in the Middle Sackville area. It is bordered by Murchison Drive from the west, Swindon Drive from the south, Hanwell Drive from the east, and a driveway access to the existing two multi-unit residential buildings from the north. This 1.4 acre commercial site was approved in 2008 under Sunset Ridge Development Agreement. It remains vacant, but all roads and services and parkland are entirely in place. This is the last site to be developed under that development agreement. Can you please put image number 2? Initially, the site was assessed and marketed as a commercial site. One option included 2 commercial buildings with surface parking, and this is the option that you see in front of you on the screen. We actually made an application for development permit assessment for staff, for our development staff, to confirm that we are able to build something, the client can build something like this, and that was okay, that was approved. Another option was 3 buildings with a combination of surface and underground parking. The site sat on the market for a number of years. Then the owners decided to move ahead with a mixed use option, which requires the amendment to the existing DA. Can you please put image 3? We are proposing a 4-story multi-unit residential building with a 1 level of underground parking. The building will include 52 residential units and 2,760 square feet of commercial space at grade. 75% of the units are proposed to be 2 or more bedrooms, and 25% as 1 bedrooms. The building covers 28% of the site, and as you can see from the site plan on the screen, there is minimal surface parking, abundance of green open space, and generous setbacks from all property lines. We move to image number 4. This is the front elevation. We have a 4-story mixed-use building with commercial at grade on the right-hand side, with a separate, well-defined entrance, residential entrance at the center of the building. The building materials are a combination of horizontal siding, architectural panels, and glass with light earth tone colors. The facade is broken into vertical forms by means of recessed balconies and alternating materials and colors to create to enhance the visual appeal. If we move ahead to image 5, that is just the rear elevation of the building. Then image 6. These are the side elevations of the building. Image 7. That just shows the floor plan at grade. It shows the one in the pink, the color in the pink that shows the commercial spaces. There's proposed three commercial spaces. And the councilor asked about the amenity spaces. So there are 2 units. The one in the yellow here, that's about close to 750 square feet. That's an amenity unit. And there's one in the same area above, same size. So it's about 1,500 square feet of internal amenity spaces. And the balance is at the outdoor amenity spaces. Image 8 shows the proposed landscaping plan. That shows a buffer of deciduous and coniferous trees on all 4 sides of the building, and other proposed shrubs and landscaping around the site. As Paul mentioned, following the public consultation process, we worked on the following items. We reintroduced some commercial space at grade. That was one of the things that we've heard that from the public. We also provided enhanced landscaping plan, including tree buffers on all 4 sides. And we worked on the building articulation and form. We move to image number 9. It is our opinion that the proposed project checks all the boxes when it comes to meeting the municipal planning strategy policies and good planning principles. This is not only our opinion, but also the opinion of HRM planning, traffic, and development engineering staff. HRM staff's opinion on this is very clear and thorough and is well tabled in the report. I would like to touch on a few of these policies. First, on the matter of compatibility, the proposed amendments to the agreement involve change from having only commercial uses on the site to a 4-story multi-residential building with some ground floor commercial space. The height increase is only 1 floor. It does not pose any compatibility concerns or land use impacts with adjacent residential development. We would argue that the control measures that planning staff have implemented through the controls of the proposed development agreement, including increased building setbacks, building form and architecture, landscaping, and tree buffer, scores higher on compatibility. On the matter of adequacy of services and water services and public utilities, Halifax Water has reviewed the application and has confirmed that all water systems, including sanitary, storm, and sewer, currently exist in the road right of way. On the adequacy of road networks leading or adjacent to or within the development, the traffic assessment that the traffic consultant has produced has been reviewed by HRM Traffic and Development Engineering and was found to be accessible and meets all HRM standard requirements. Also, I would like to add that there's a bus stop at the doorsteps of this building. This concludes my presentation. Once again, thank you, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you very much. And at this point, I'd like to call on any councillors who have questions of clarification of Mr. Sella. And Councillor Blackburn, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much for the presentation. It does look like a lovely building. I just have the one question, and as part of your process in changing this from a commercial to a residential, did you have any conversations about school capacity in the area, or in touch with education officials at all to discuss this?
No, we haven't ourselves, but I am aware that as part of the circulation of this proposal, through staff does circulate to the education department and all sort of agencies, the police department, what have you, fire department. So this application was circled to, and maybe Paul can attest to that. And the comments came back positive, that there were no concerns of any required additional services. So I would refer you to Paul to see if he can add to that. But it's my understanding from this application and previous applications that these get circulated to a lot of agencies, and one of them being the school board.
Just to clarify, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, so we used to do that. We used to send every application to the school board. And at some point, probably a couple of years ago, they asked us not to send them, but instead what they do is they keep track of our applications on our website, and they're aware of all of our applications. So if there is you know, ever a concern, they would get a hold of us. But they've you know, they've kind of stopped that practice, and but they're definitely aware of the proposals that are coming forward to council on a regular basis.
All right, appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Are there any further questions from council, or Councillor Blackburn, are you okay? Thank you. I would like to pose a question to Paul Sampson, if I could, in light of what you have just shared with us about the Department of Education or HRCE, tracking which applications. Have they reached out to us and made comments on any of the applications, or is this something that they are aware of and we have had no feedback, no response?
In this particular case, they haven't provided any concerns, but I'm not sure of the answer to that, whether they have in other cases or not. But they're certainly aware of our application process, and that they can find the information online and things like that. So, but yeah, that's and this typically this size of a development would not really register. I think if they're going to have concerns, it's with the much larger proposals that come forward, such as the application that would have, you know, for the entire Sunset Ridge development several years ago. So
absolutely, I was just wondering about their changing process. Councillor Outfit.
Thank you, Chair. And just continuing on with your comment, and maybe we can see if a motion is required or not on this, but later in the meeting or in the next meeting, I wouldn't mind getting an update from staff on this. This is the first I've heard of this. And with both the HRCE not being sent these letters, and considering there's some very large and numerous projects coming forward, I would like to get some indication. I mean, to say that it's on our website and hopefully somebody from the HRCE proactively signs on to the website every once in a while to see what we're doing. I'm a little bit skeptical of that, and I'd like to be wrong. And I see Thea's popping up to probably tell me I'm wrong. But I'm a little worried about that based on what I've experienced in big growth areas like I represent. But maybe Thea can put my mind at ease. But if not, I think at some point, maybe as a council or a community council, we should ask for some clarification on the process. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Outfit. Thea, go ahead.
Yes, good evening, Council. Thea Landrill, Principal Planner of the Rural Policy and Applications Team. Hopefully, Councillor, I can kind of put your mind to a little bit of ease this evening. So what Paul was referring to is definitely during kind of this span of time at the school board when they were having some staffing challenges, And the way in which we were circulating our applications, we had to make some adjustments. So we have made those adjustments. They do have a person in that role now. And I do know for applications of kind of that larger nature, like the ones that you're talking about, Councillor, for say Bedford West, Bedford South, as well as Margison, we have reached out specifically to the school board with very specific questions to ensure that we're able to advise council whether or not a proposed development is able to be serviced from that school perspective. So yeah, I think there has been some adjustments to maybe the number of applications. We don't send every single thing along to the school board now. We do look at it. If we do anticipate that it could have some type of impact on the number of students attending in an area, we do specifically reach out with those questions, and they have been able to respond.
All right. Well, I will view that as comforting, Thea. Thank you. And I'll withdraw my
Councillor.
concerns right now, Chair. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Outfit. Councillor Lovelace.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thea, don't go away. I just want to finish that question or finish that comment. You know, even and sorry, Cesar, for stealing your time on this. This is a larger discussion, I think, because even if Community Council or Planning Advisory Committee, what have you, has concerns, or HRCE has concerns, that does not fall under the MPS. And so, with regards to an appeal to UARB, I'm not sure what kind of standing HRCE would have. Thea, can you just express what that would look like, please?
Yeah, so there is some complicated layers to that particular scenario, but a lot of our policies do kind of have that question built into them as to whether or not there's adequate capacity in the existing school system. The school board does have the Education Center does have the requirement to ensure that all children are schooled. Now, whether or not you have to take a bus or the school that you were attending, it gets realigned through boundary adjustments. That becomes a little bit of a different issue when a new population is introduced into an area. So back to your question, though, is whether or not under an appeal, it would have to be clear that there is no capacity to provide schooling to children that would be proposed in a development. So if we were looking at a large master plan area and the school board felt that there was just no capacity, then yes, that might be grounds. But what we try to do with the school board is let them know where we're growing in the future, where these applications are. If we have these larger scale proposals, we do inform them. And they're plugged in through our regional plan review as well. So hopefully that answers the question that you had, Councillor.
That does. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Lovelace. At this point, I don't see any further questions from council, so thank you very much. And I would like to open the hearing to the three members of the public who have signed up. Just going through my notes here, any member of the public who registered with the clerk's office on this matter will be given 5 minutes to address the topic. When I call your name, you may unmute your mic and begin speaking. Each speaker is asked to begin by stating your name and the name of the community in which you reside for the record. Please keep your comments respectful, on topic, and directed to me. Once you've finished your comments and answering any questions of clarification, please leave the Zoom meeting and watch the rest of the meeting using the webcast, and the link is available on halifax.ca on the agenda page. So the three speakers this evening are Alex Gervais, Lisa Romano, and Eric Romano, and I apologize, Alex, if I mangled your last name. Alex, are you in the meeting? I don't see you here.
Hello.
Ah, there you are. Go ahead, Alex. You've got 5 minutes.
Let me start my timer. I would like to begin by saying that I am not anti-development. I support the development of the lot as commercial space as was originally intended. I am, however, opposed to both the nature of this proposal and the current restrictions it attempts to circumvent. The proposal doesn't solve the affordable housing crisis. No one believes that $1,500 to $2,000 apartment units are affordable housing, so let's not fool ourselves here. The lot currently allows commercial use. We have a doctor shortage. How would a doctor's office not benefit and serve the needs of my community and those surrounding it? The proposed apartment building has more than twice the lot coverage as the first two apartments that were built in our community, both at 117 and 119 Hanwell Drive. The distance of the building to adjacent single-family homes is 35% closer than any other apartment building in the community. The height proposed is 37% taller than what is currently allowed on the lot. We already have an issue with on-street parking. This proposal only allows for one parking space for every tenant and 12 parking spaces to be shared between the commercial space and visitor parking. Most tenants have more than one vehicle. This is a recipe for disaster that would cause major safety issues with both a bus traveling through and numerous pedestrians walking about a narrowed roadway. It is well known that the first two apartment buildings were not well received in this community for many reasons I do not have time to discuss here. Other planned communities do have apartment buildings that have been integrated with much better execution. Larry Utech comes to mind. The transition from tall residential buildings to single-family homes is tapered in such areas, either with descending density, followed by townhomes, duplexes, and then single-family homes. Low-rise commercial buildings, Illuminate Co. being a perfect example, distance or buffers, including wooded areas or fencing. None of those conditions exist in this proposal. A few trees does not constitute a buffer. Why would we allow this proposal, which continues the trend of poor planning by having 2 times more lot coverage than the previous apartments at 117 and 119 Hanwell Drive, by being 50 feet closer to adjacent homes and being 37% taller than what is currently allowed? We do not allow such amendments when a homeowner builds a garage, fence, or deck. Indeed, I do not know of any homeowner that was ever successful getting such an amendment for a home improvement project. The repercussions of a homeowner's renovation are far less impactful than a massive community development, yet we never allow a homeowner to circumvent such rules. So why then in this case would we allow it? What does that say about our government when large community shaping developments are allowed to be altered and skewed from their original allowances so drastically, yet a homeowner must always abide by the rules? We are saying that with enough money, enough power, enough persistence, and enough strong-arming, developers can have their way. And there's nothing right about that. Again, I'm pro-development, but it must be thought out and add real value. It can't just be about the money. In this case, it's squeezing out as much as the developer can by bending the rules and building an apartment in an ill-suited location. Investment in our community is what we want, and that doesn't mean cheating the system to build what makes you the most money. It's not as though this proposal took the previous restrictions of height, size, and scale and merely proposed it be residential rather than commercial. This proposal attempts to circumvent every restriction of height, scale, size, and nature that would have applied to the currently allowed commercial uses. Put simply, it would seem the developer is attempting to get away with everything and concede to nothing. When I invested my hard-earned dollars by purchasing a home in this community, I did it in good faith, with the assumption that the community would be built out as designed and agreed upon. I find myself now lacking faith both in my government and in my past decision to start my family here. I urge you now to reinstate that faith both for me and my neighbors. Thank you for your time and for hearing me out. I trust you will represent us honestly and do what is right in this regard.
Thank you, Alex. At this point, any questions from councillors of clarification? If you would like to ask a question, please put your name in the chat. And I don't see any. Okay, thank you very much for your time, Alex. We will take your comments into consideration.
Thank you.
The next speaker on the list is Lisa Romano. Lisa, are you with us this evening? I see your name there.
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Hi, Lisa. Yes, we can hear you
Okay.
now. Go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, hi, I'm Lisa Romano. I live in Sunset Ridge Subdivision. I am opposed to this proposal as well. I live right across from the proposed development in a home here that we've been living in for the past 7 years or so. When we built this home, again, we were under the assumption that it would be commercial use across the street there, and that was part of our reason for building here and starting our family here as well. There has been lots of concerns with the apartment buildings that are already up in Sunset Ridge here. And again, as Alex said, too much to go into with different things that anyway will take too long. But one of the biggest concerns for me is the overflow of parking from those buildings. Right now, there are people visiting those buildings that are always parking in front of our houses down here because there's not enough parking up there. So that'll just be magnified with another apartment building right here next to us. There's a lot of children in this neighborhood, especially up here on the top of Hanwell and Barnsley. There's a lot of young children playing. The traffic is already extreme with the buses, with the two apartments that are already there, with the overflow of parking. It's not a good area for an apartment building to be put. There's just too much in my eyes with the children. The other thing is the schools, which was addressed. Schools are already overpopulated in this area. My son did go to Sackville Heights Elementary, who now has pods / kind of trailers that they have had to create for the students. They're extremely overloaded. And I just think that this kind of addition to the neighborhood is just going to put it more hard for the school to accommodate. I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Lisa.
Thank you.
I don't see any comments or any requests for comments from members of council. So I would ask the next speaker, Eric Romano. Are you with us today, Eric? I see you there. You are muted. Eric, are you there? We can't hear you. You're muted.
Hi, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Go ahead, Eric.
Thank you. Good evening.
You have 5 minutes.
Perfect. Well, I think I would like to thank Alex. I'm kind of speechless with everything you said there. It made so many good points. But my big thing, yes, it's a building size. It's a monster building. It's really close to the street. The fact that the entrance is on Hanwell, that make things difficult. Just like, it's been mentioned before about parking. We already see people from those two apartment buildings come park on the street. There's probably within 40 feet, there's probably 20 kids playing on the street all the time. Hockey, basketball, name it, just having fun. Now with people coming parking on the street on Barnsley, it's just going to make it difficult. It's not going to make it enjoyable the way it is right now. People talk about traffic, and you might think that a commercial building will bring more traffic also, but on the proposal, the commercial building, the entrance was on the other street, not on Hanwell. I forget the name, Swordon or something like that. So that would create more traffic on Hanwell being that way. The other thing that nobody talked, yes, the school, overloaded right now. You should just take a drive down and look at those trailer. It looks like a trailer park now in that school because they don't have enough space inside the school. So imagine bringing like 50 units, there's going to be lots of new kids going to that school. The other thing too, that when I built a house on Hanwell before to build a house on this house here, and we tried to sell that house to come on this cul-de-sac, and while they were building the apartment behind, and at that point it was not a seller market but a buyer's market, we couldn't sell the house. Nobody wanted the house, even if everybody loved the house. But the fact that those buildings were there, people didn't want to buy. They had other choice, so they went somewhere else. So my real estate agent told me it's either you drop the price to sell or you just rent, which we did. for a little bit. I didn't like the idea, but we had to do it because we would lose money. Now, same thing happened here. I knew it was supposed to be commercial there. We spent, lots of, for us, like small people, a house like this, it's an investment of our life. We did our due diligence, make sure that, everything will be fine. And we look at the commercial building going on, and we thought same thing, it could be a little cafe, a little daycare, like a doctor, a dentist, physio, name it. It's so many, business could go there that could make this subdivision go up in value. Now I'm really afraid that the value of my home is going to go down, because it's a bit crazy right now with the seller market, but we all know it's going to change. I know right now with this big crisis with affordable houses, but an apartment that's going to lease, I don't know, between probably $1,300 and $1,700 a month, it's not affordable to me. So it's not the idea of fixing the issue we have with the affordable houses. The plan of this building, it's wrong from the get-go, and it's got to be a better way. So same thing, I'm hoping that you're gonna see that this is not fit for this neighborhood, and you're gonna object to that. I hope with all my heart that you guys can understand it. Maybe just take a drive here and see from your own eyes, and then again, those little trees that they might plant, it's not gonna do nothing to the subdivision for us to not see that big monster there. So yeah, I think that's it for me.
Eric, if I'm okay, thank you. I was just going to mention that you had 30 seconds left. So thank you very much for your comments. And I don't see any. Thank you. I don't see any comments from from council at this point. So at this point, I would like to see if the speaker, Caesar Sellout, would like to respond to any of the comments from those who have presented this evening. You have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Yes, I do, Mr. Chair. Thank you. First, I'll few words on some of the technical matters that were raised, and I won't spend a lot of time on those because I'm not sure really if these are the issues at hand here, but I still would like to address them. Regarding the footprint of the building, the remark was that it's double the buildings that are adjacent to it. That's not true. This building is smaller than footprint of a single building next to it. So the footprint of the building is smaller than the buildings that are adjacent to it. I know that the buildings up the street are 68 units, and this building's 52 units. And I can tell if you go back to image 1A, if staff wants to put that up, you can tell that the footprint is smaller. I just wanted to point that out. As far as the parking that we are showing in the proposal is a minimum, and there's always the option to do more, underground and surface, but the parking requirement in the development agreement is a minimum requirement. So as a minimum, yes, there is 1-for-1, and there's 12 additional parking spaces, as well as mentioned before, that there is a bus stop right at that doorstep. The issue here is probably a little bit bigger than that, and it's unfortunate. Whenever we propose these types of proposals, and I've been doing this for the last 25 years. There's opposition, and I understand. Some of it's just people don't like change, and we face opposition. To me, we have. What it boils down to, it's not a matter of power. It's not a matter if everybody has the right to make these applications. Council has policies in place for us to work with staff when we're making these applications. We look at these sites on a site per site basis, and we see, does it make sense? Can we meet these policies? And these are policies that council has approved in the past. In this case, we've assessed that site, and let me tell you, there's this site does check all the boxes from a policy point of view, and from a good planning point of view as well. We worked with your staff, and we have your staff's recommendation. I wish there was a better way. I wish we could, we could come to you with a proposal where there's no opposition. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And all we can do from our end is to work through the process, work with staff, try to make sure that what we're proposing is sound, and we believe that what you have here in front of you is the case. And I want to be honest with you as well. We cater. There's an interest in this form of housing in the Sackville, Middle Sackville area. We are seeing interest all over the place, and we try to be selective to take projects that have the best chance of success. But it's not a matter of it's a matter. It goes down to there's a great need for this type of housing in the Sackville area. And the development industry is just it's just trying to meet the demand of this marketplace. These buildings are being filled before they're finished, and that speaks of the demand that's there. And I believe that yes, there are some inconveniences there. When these buildings, as they're going up, there is inconveniences. But when they are built, we're building these buildings. We're proposing them, designing them, and building throughout the city, and they can coexist. When they're done well, they can coexist with the right measures in place. They can coexist with lower density residential. And if you look through, at this site, and
I would like to interrupt you. You have 30 seconds left.
Sure, no problem. That just concludes my response. I believe that the proposed building works for this site, and it meets all the required policies and meets all good planning principles. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Daigle-Gammon, you have a question for Mr. Sala. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the response. One of my questions would just be, you had said that in terms of the parking, the minimum is what is provided there. Would you consider doing more than the minimum in terms of
absolutely
the pressure on the community?
Yeah, absolutely. It just, the number that's there is when staff writes a development agreement, there's measures, there's numbers, right? There's the opportunity to put more surface parking, and there's the opportunity to put more underground parking. So if this is governed by the land use bylaw and the market demand. If the market demand is for more parking, we put more parking because we're able to put more through the underground parking. It just with parking, it's a two-way thing. Sometimes we hear from the community and they want less parking, and sometimes we hear from the community and they want more parking. Right now, the number of parking that is proposed is to meet 1-for-1 and plus 12 additional parking spaces, but there is the opportunity to have more parking spaces if that is what's desired.
Thank you.
Both underground and above ground.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sala. Thank you, Councillor Daigle-Gammon. Can I please, if there are no further questions, can I please have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved, Tim.
Thank you. And
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Lovelace. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Thank you. So at this point, I would like to provide staff with an opportunity to respond to the comments from the public. And if any members of council have any questions of staff, please indicate that in the chat.
Mr. Chair, maybe the only thing I would comment on with regards to the parking that was just being talked about, maybe, and this might involve legal as well, but if council were to make that request of the applicant to provide more parking, I mean, one suggestion would be that either that take place underground, or if it is surface parking, it should probably take place in the rear of the building that faces Margison Drive. So there's as much landscaping as possible on the Hanwell side and on the side property line that kind of more or less faces the existing houses. So I don't think a reduction in green space would be a good thing in those areas, but I'll leave that to council to think about.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. Councillor Outhet.
Thank you, Chair. And Paul sort of scooped me to some extent, and I'll wait to hear from Councillor Blackburn before I do any motion. But I'd like to understand from Paul and perhaps from Roxanne, if we wanted to increase the parking, for example, I've got a couple of questions here. But first of all, the DA can require additional parking, and then we could get into where it's underground, external, etc., visitor parking, etc. So I understand that, but what I don't understand, at one time, I've been on council a little while now, we used to be able to just say, okay, well, we'll do that, we'll amend the DA to say that we need to add 12 more parking spots, let's say, or something, or 1.5 per every unit instead of 1. And we could do that sort of on the fly and amend a DA. I don't know that we can do that anymore without us having to go back and to sort of not start the process over again, but certainly publish it as another public hearing and whatnot to discuss the revisions. So I'd like confirmation on that from Roxanne, if I could, our solicitor, but also if and I can't really ask Mr. Sell, I guess, but maybe Paul could help me. Can we just have an agreement from the developer to add some parking without having to start the process again? So that's question number one for Paul and the solicitor, is how do we go about adding more parking into the DA? Second is one of the speakers, Alex, I think, mentioned that that was 30-odd% higher than neighboring buildings, and not the size of the building, but I thought I took it to mean not the size of the building, the number of units, but the coverage on the lot was significantly higher than other buildings in the area. So I would like Paul to clarify that. If that's the case, and we always look at compatibility with neighborhoods, and if this was 30-odd% higher, 30-odd% bigger on lot coverage, why would have staff have recommended this? So confirmation if it's true, and then why it would have been still recommended, and then of course my question about the parking. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, well, I may need Roxanne's help on this one, but but first of all, with regards to parking, so the current plans that are proposed are the site plan, the landscaping plan, and the elevation drawings. So I guess if additional underground parking were provided, that would not require an amendment to those drawings. It may just simply require a text amendment to the agreement. So that's something, I guess, for maybe Roxanne to comment on as well. With regards to the 30% or the 27%, so one of the comments I believe one of the Alex Gervais had commented on was I think he was talking about a couple things, coverage and maybe the height of the building.
That's right.
There's the height issue of it's essentially this is 1 story higher than what could happen as of right. Or what I mean by that is the existing agreement allows commercial at a maximum of 35 feet. So the height of this building, it looks like it's approximately 45 on average, 45 feet. So we're talking about 1 additional floor compared to what could happen under the current agreement. So the coverage issue, I mean, the lot coverage in this case is acceptable. So I can't compare. I don't know the exact numbers of the other 2 apartment buildings. Cesar, I think it was commenting that this building is smaller than those other 2 buildings, but in terms of coverage, I don't know what the coverage of those other buildings are. But in this case, the coverage that proposed is acceptable. There's and that was one of the key things that in our discussions, staff with the applicant was to, have as much green space as possible. So, the amount of green space versus asphalt versus building space, we felt was acceptable in this case. So.
Okay, I'll wait to hear from the councillor from the area, but if she thinks it's of interest, I certainly would be supportive of trying to find some sort of way to maybe increase the amount of parking, but I'll wait and see what she has to say, and then perhaps Roxanne's advice. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Outhat. Do you still need Roxanne to weigh in at this point on the parking?
Well, she can do that, or she can see if Lisa agrees with me, but I would like to find out if Lisa does agree with me, perhaps what the process would be. Sure.
Roxanne?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I believe the process here would involve a deferral, and then the planning staff would have to speak to the developer and come up with some wording and some numbers as to what would work for this development. So I really don't see that unless Paul thinks differently of being able to come up with that on the fly this evening.
Okay, no, that makes sense to me, and we'll see what the councillor for the area has to say about a deferral. Thank you, Roxanne. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Blackburn.
Thank you. Did you want me to put the motion on the floor, sir?
If you could, yes, please.
All right. I move that Northwest Community Council 1 approve the proposed amending development agreement, which shall be substantially of the same form as set out in attachment A of the September 21st, 2021 staff report, and 2, require the amending development agreement be signed by the property owner within 240 days or any extension thereof granted by council on the request of the property owner and from the date of final approval by council and any other bodies as necessary, including applicable appeal periods, whichever is later. Otherwise, this approval will be void and obligations arising hereunder shall be at an end. I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Blackburn. Councillor Lovelace, thank you for seconding that. Go ahead, Councillor Blackburn.
All right. So here's the thing. As a councillor, some of the most difficult conversations that we are going to have are with residents who don't do their due diligence when moving into a new home, or they just rely solely on the real estate agent to give them all the information they feel they need on their new neighborhood. And in this case, residents moved to this new area expecting a commercial development next door to them. And now this application has flipped the script on them. Yes, we need housing. Absolutely. We need housing at all price points everywhere in HRM. But this area was never anticipated for a third apartment building. There are no retail services close by, and the school system is not prepared for a third apartment building either. The elementary school, it's been mentioned a few times tonight, that takes kids from this community. They have six portable classrooms this year. Call them pods, call them whatever, they're portables. And there's no plans for a redraw of the boundary and no plans for a new school. And I know that that's not supposed to factor into our decision, but community planning is not about looking at projects as one-offs. We have to consider what's going on holistically. It's sort of the drip, drip, drip effect. Also to take into consideration, just nearby down the street, Indigo Shores, they're asking to have their construction cap removed so they can start building more houses faster. Again, with no consideration to what is going on with the schools. To be honest, this whole process has become very frustrating because we can listen to the community tell us what they want. We can debate the importance of complete communities, but at the end of the day, with this new provincial legislation, the ultimate decision is no longer ours. We're supposed to be the layer of protection between unchecked developer desire and residents, and this legislation will erode our ability to do this. As much as I love the apartment building, and I agree that we do need housing of this kind in the Middle Sackville area, I got to agree with Northwest Planning Advisory on this one. This is really too much of a change in the development agreement for me to endorse this one. you know, and also the ad hoc way in which the school board is involved in this process is somewhat concerning. So while I do like what is proposed, I like the apartment building, and I think we need more of those types of housing opportunities. It's the right building, but it's just the wrong time. Not until the school situation is sorted out. I just can't support adding more residential, that unexpected residential development in an area where the elementary school is already 6 portables deep with no correction for that course in sight. So I thank you for your time, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Blackburn. Councillor Lovelace.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Councillor Blackburn. You said it well. I agree with you. I think that this is a transition that, while on one hand, I understand, certainly there is transit availability that would be right there in front of the building. There are no amenities. This isn't, well, I understand there's 2 other very large apartment buildings just down the street from this proposed one. It just doesn't fit with the community, and I think that Northwest Planning Advisory Committee did their due diligence, and I have to side with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lovelace. I don't see any further comments in the chat. So at this point, I would like to call the question, and I think we probably need a named vote on this one. So Andrea, would you be able to go ahead with that?
Yes, Chair Russell.
Thank you.
I will start with Deputy Mayor Outfit.
I'll vote no.
Councillor Daigle-Gammon.
Vote no.
Councillor Lovelace.
Nay.
Councillor Blackburn.
Voting no on the motion.
And Councillor Russell.
Voting against the motion. So that motion fails. Thank you very much, Andrea. What we have at this point, and I would look to Roxanne to correct anything that I might say. We have 2 alternatives presented in the report, and I'm wondering if any of the councillors would be interested in putting one of those motions on the floor. And do we need someone to put one of those motions on the floor, or is this, where does it proceed from here?
So Chair Russell, at this point, if it's just a refusal, we would need to have reasons provided for the refusal. We could go with Councillor Blackburn's comments that she made previous to the vote on the motion, or if councillors were desiring about modifications being put forward, it's already too late for that, according to Roxanne's advice. I believe the vote on the motion should have been deferred, and then subject to a supplementary staff report. Is that correct, Roxanne?
Yes, it's correct. They should have deferred the motion if they required a supplemental staff report to address the parking issue.
Okay, thank you. So at this point, because the motion has not been deferred, we have a failed motion on the floor. Is there a way forward with one of the alternatives, or what are we able to do since we don't have a deferred motion?
It's a refusal.
It's a refusal. Okay. Councillor Outfit.
Thank you, Chair. And so that's my comment was going to be that this is a refusal. Now, there's 2 things that can happen after this. In my opinion, subject to somebody correcting me, one is it can be appealed to the OERB, as Roxanne mentioned earlier. The second is that, of course, the developer could and its representative could make some changes and of course, reapply, propose something different. But I think, and I'd like Roxanne to comment on this, if she wouldn't mind, our solicitor, I should say. I mean, the reasons we have heard is concerns over parking. We've heard reasons from the council of the area about school size. I haven't heard anybody talk about height or mass or compatibility with the neighborhood, but if we have those concerns, I mean, this would be very timely time to mention it from a councillor if she's looking for reasons. So I think what we're hearing from the clerk is we need some reasons for the referral, and I think Roxanne would probably like to have some reasons for the refusal if this is going to be appeal to the UARB.
If I may, the decision's been made, and the reasons will be extracted from the council debate. And ultimately, the board looks at the reasons, but ultimately they have one task, and that's simply to decide whether the decision is reasonably consistent with the municipal planning strategy. So if they're hearing de novo, they can hear other new evidence at the board. So ultimately, that's the board's task, but they will look at the reasons during the debate prior to the vote.
Okay, so for clarification, the clerk does not then require any additional reasons from us or you, Roxanne?
No, not at this point, no.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. And with that clarification, thank you very much, Councillor Outfit and Roxanne. I appreciate that. With that, we are moving on to item 10.1.2. This is case 23512, amendments to the development agreement for Civic 27 and 65 Delridge Lane, Bedford. And once again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today for this virtual public hearing. The order of events for this virtual hearing will be the same as regular public hearing. We will start with a staff presentation, give the applicant an opportunity to present via Zoom, and then we will go into the public hearing speakers list. As a reminder to all speakers and those watching from home, in order to have signed up as a speaker, the deadline was 4:30 p.m. on the business day prior to the hearing, which was Friday, November 5th. There is one speaker registered for this public hearing. Over to Andrea. Has any correspondence been received on this item?
Yes, Chair Russell. Correspondence was received about this item and circulated to the Community Council.
Great, thank you very much. And Paul Simpson, you are with us again, and are you prepared for the presentation?
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead, the floor is yours.
Okay, I'm just going to try to share my screen, but it won't let me. Andrea, do you?
Yes, Paul, I just made you co-host, so you should be able to now.
Oh, great, thank you. Okay.
And we can see your screen now.
Great, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this application is case 23512. It is amendments to the development agreement for the Bedford South development at 27 and 65 Delridge Lane, Bedford. The application is FBM Architects on behalf of the property owner, Rainbow Development Holdings Limited, and Samantha Delory, the proponent and leasee. The location, 2765 Delridge Lane, that is a private lane off of 9 Mile Drive. And the proposal is to amend the development agreement. This is the location highlighted in red. There are 2 buildings on the site. I'm just going to move quickly. The easternmost building is Civic number 27, and it's off of 9 Mile Drive. Delridge Lane basically accesses both 9 Mile Drive and Larry Utek Boulevard. So this is the location in the building at Civic number 27, the former Children's Play Space. And this is the just the planning and land use bylaw information. That the zoning's Bedford South CDD, and the site is designated in the planning strategy as general commercial under Bedford South secondary planning strategy. The like I said, the 2 existing buildings on the site and parking and driveway. In terms of Bedford State's agreement, this agreement is allocated the site as general commercial development. So the types of commercial uses that are permitted are listed in a schedule in the agreement, but basically a lot of retail, restaurant, offices, and different services, commercial services. So the proposed amendments are to add and define in what's called an indoor commercial dog care facility that would exclude overnight boarding and exclude an outdoor enclosure or outdoor activity. The proposed use then would be added to the list of permitted uses in Schedule P just for this site, so specific to this site. Just some really quick facts. Samantha and David will probably go over this in more detail, but the proposal is to have just daytime and evening hours, possibly 7 days a week. The enclosed space would be soundproof, and the use would include not just the care of dogs, but also accessory sale of retail goods. This image just shows the porch potties that are used for elimination. The self-service and grooming would be part of it, and the estimate is approximately 30 dogs would be available to use the space. So under the planning strategy, the Bedford South secondary planning strategy, in terms of the issues that council shall consider for any amendments, these are the types of issues. These were the original policies that were in place a number of years ago at the start of Bedford South. So parks and open spaces, transportation network. But in this case, the key policies are the general commercial policies, which just simply deal with types of land use and the building use and design. So policy GC1, general commercial, basically just says that the designation supports range of goods and services. In this case, a proposed dog daycare would fit into that, and because it benefits the neighborhood. So we had a virtual public information meeting back in June. There were 16 members who attended. 6 people spoke in favor of the proposal, and on August 4th, it went to PAC, and PAC recommended approval as is without any conditions. And we recommend that Community Council approve the proposed development agreement. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Paul. I would ask for council to consider that, and if you have any questions of clarification from Paul, please enter your name in the chat. And at this point, I don't see any. So I'd like to open the public hearing and invite the applicant to address council. Samantha Delory and David Patterson, I see both of you online here. And can you unmute yourselves just to make sure that we have an audio check?
Yes.
There's David and there's Sam. Thank you very much. That's perfect. And as I understand it, you will be making a presentation this evening?
Yes, I think we'll defer to Sam as prepared a short slideshow.
Okay.
If the clerk is able to bring that up.
Perfect.
Thank you, and we can see that. Go ahead, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. My name is Sam. I'm the CEO and founder of Dream Dog Bedford, which is the business we're here to discuss tonight. I just want to take a brief moment just to acknowledge the land. So Dream Dog is located in Quebec, which is known today as Bedford. This means the head of the tide in Mi'kma'ki, and this business is located within the traditional and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. So we can proceed to the next slide. Just a quick about me. I'm the CEO and president of Dream Dog. My background is actually as a nurse. I'm working currently with public health on the COVID response team, but my passions lie with care for animals as well as entrepreneurship and business. We can go to the next slide there. So just an overview of dog daycare as a service. It's for clients to leave their dogs during the day when they're unavailable to be with them. So while they're working, shopping, working out, eating in the area, that type of thing. It fills an industry gap between multi-day kennel boarding and in-home pet sitting. Most people do know what a doggy daycare is if you live in HRM. Currently, there's over 15 dog daycares that exist. And we can go to the next slide. So just a little bit about the concept for Dream Dog Bedford being indoor only. It's inspired sort of by what I would coin boutique dog daycares that are sort of popping up all across North America, especially within the United States. It will be completely enclosed, soundproof for dogs over 16 weeks old and less than 40 pounds. Everybody always asks me, but Sam, if it's inside only, where will the dogs go to the bathroom? So this is kind of what Paul was alluding to. So we're going to use a very common solution for apartment and condo balconies. This is called a porch potty, and I just included a few images here for you guys. Basically, these two things combined ensures that there'll be no noise or mess concerns from surrounding businesses and residents. So you can go to the next slide, please. So of course, our main service offered will be doggy daycare. We'll be open from 6:30 in the morning to 7:30 at night. This kind of covers anybody working shift work. As a nurse, I know how important it is to have those flexible hours to be able to drop your pet off. We'll be open 7 days a week is the plan. No overnight boarding as per the Bedford land use bylaw, so it will be strictly daytime services. We will separate the dogs by play styles, so there'll be a gentle play area and then an active play area for those dogs who really need to get the let out during the day. And dogs will follow a schedule just like they would at home. So there'll be lunchtime and playtime, social time, and downtime. Our space available will be, I put plus minus 30. It kind of all depends on the square footage offered once we get our construction plans together. That being said, I do think it's important to mention to council that we do have a wait list for clients in the area who are interested to book services. And currently our wait list sits at 70 clients. So I'll get you to move to the next one. Thank you. Other services offered, just quickly, will also offer self-service grooming. So this will be open to dog, any breed, any size. We'll provide everything that the client needs to bathe their dog in our facilities. So shampoo, conditioner, professional dryer, even heated towels and dog treats. And we can move on to the next slide there. We're also going to have just some curated local items for retail sale. Personally, I just think this is a great way to involve the community and other entrepreneurs in the area. So we'll take like local items from other maritime makers. So Paul already kind of reviewed the location. It's at 27 Delridge Lane. So I think we can go to the next slide here. This is just a summary of some of the other business types that are located on the property. So you can see there, there's some restaurants, some health services, there's a spa, there's also a hair salon, as well as a full service daycare with 176 children in the adjacent building there. And then this is just the interior as it looks right now. As Paul mentioned, it was previously used as an indoor children's play place. So I think the facility is actually set up quite well for our business use. And the square footage is plus minus about 3,305 square feet. And if anyone on the call wants to know more information about the business itself, you can feel free to get in touch with me via our website. And I'll pause here because I think David has a few comments before we finish our presentation.
Sure, thank you. I don't have much to add to that. I just really want to thank Paul and staff for all their help in developing the definition in alignment with the policy and the designation for general commercial. And we really see this as basically just an update to the 2009 policy, which happened to come along at a time when this kind of business was not common, but now it is. But yeah, I think I don't have any further comments except to give some thanks to Paul Sampson and staff and advisory committee, members of the public, and community council.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation, and Sam, thank you very much for the work you're doing in your day job. I really appreciate that. At this point, I just want to get my notes back, so bear with me. So at this point, I'm looking for any questions of clarification from members of council. If anybody would like to ask any questions of clarification, please indicate that. And I don't see any, and I don't see anybody moving for the keyboard. Any member of the public who has registered with the clerk's office, it looks like some notes are missing. Okay. Any member of the public who registered with the clerk's office on this matter will be given 5 minutes to address the topic. When I call your name, you may unmute your mic and begin speaking. Each speaker is asked to begin by stating your name and the name of the community in which you reside for the record. Please keep your comments respectful, on topic, and directed to me. Once you've finished your comments and answering any questions of clarification, please leave the Zoom meeting and watch the rest of the meeting using the webcast. The link is available at halifax.ca on the agenda page for this meeting. The one speaker who has been registered is Rebecca Dunstan.
So Chair Russell, I have an update regarding Rebecca Dunstan. She was originally, she had signed into the meeting at the beginning of the meeting and has since left the meeting. Clerk's office staff has been in touch with her via email and twice via phone, and we haven't received a response. So she's aware that it was coming up for hearing, and she's chosen not to stay in the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrea. So at this point, I would ask the applicant to respond to any of the comments by those who spoke. Nobody has spoken, so can I please have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved,
Mr.
Councillor Outhet, thank you very much for moving that, and Councillor Lovelace, thank you for seconding that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So at this point, I would like to provide staff, Paul, with the opportunity to respond to what we have heard from the applicant.
Mr. Chair, nothing from me, thanks.
Nothing from you, okay. And what are the wishes of council?
I'm happy to put the motion on the floor, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, go ahead.
It is moved that Northwest Community Council 1 approve the proposed amenity development agreement, which be substantially of the same form as set out in attachment A of the September 14th, 2021 staff report, and 2, require the amenity development agreement be signed by the property owner with 240 days for any extension thereof granted by council on request of the property owner from the date of final approval by council and any other bodies as necessary, including applicable appeal periods, whichever is later. And otherwise, this approval will be void and obligations arising hereunder shall be at end. So moved.
Second.
Thank you,
Second.
seconded. Let's attribute that to Councillor Blackburn.
I can see.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Outhet.
I'm not one for making puns, of course, as you all know, but Sam has been dogged on this, and she has absolutely, if anybody deserves to have a successful business after all her creativity on this and her doggedness, I think that would be her. I would have problems with this if it wasn't for small dogs and indoors. It isn't. The community hasn't had any concerns about this. It's for small dogs. It's for indoors. Probably no more noisy than the kids that used to be there. And I think becoming acquainted with Sam a little bit over the last, I don't know, was it 2 or 3 years now? Perhaps this has been going on. That I wish her well. I have no objections to this. I have no concerns, and I'm happy to approve it and recommend approving it, to support it. And I'm also grateful for Paul Sampson and the effort he made to try and make some deadlines till we could get this up and running. So I hope my colleagues will agree that this is a good thing. And unfortunately, my dogs are overqualified. They're well over 40 pounds, and good luck trying to get them into that washing facility. But my Great Pyrenees and my Husky won't qualify for this, but I know there's lots of little dogs in the area and owners who will be happy to see this. So hopefully folks will be able to support this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Outhet. Go ahead, Councillor Lovelace.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Sam and David, for this presentation. What a fantastic business idea. Especially for just thinking of seniors in particular who are in the area. What a great way to drop their little pooch off and get some exercise and have some fun. I'm someone who visits Delridge Lane quite often. I love patrons as an example, and Spa Chapelle. So congratulations on getting this far. I do think that my Australian Shepherd's a bit too big to come and visit your business, but you've already got an amazing wait list. It's an excellent business idea. I do just have one question. Are there any other businesses like this that you're modeling this after, or is this?
Sorry,
Oh,
the
I can't
public
ask
hearing
that.
is closed.
Okay, sorry.
So you would be able to ask that of Paul Sampson,
Paul
but you can't
Sampson.
ask it of the applicant.
Oh, thank you. All these rules. So yeah, I'm just, Sam, if you could tell us, are there other businesses like this in the area in HRM?
Paul, would you be able to respond to that?
Just from my discussions with Sam, I'm not 100% sure, but there are definitely other dog daycares in other parts, but not one in this area of Bedford, certainly.
And that's what I thought too, that this is completely unique. So kudos to you, Sam and David. Well done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't see any further speakers. This sounds like a great idea from my perspective. And I probably shouldn't have said that as chair, so I apologize for that.
We're going to have to muzzle you.
That has not had an impact in the past. So at this point, I'd like to call for the question on the motion. All those in favor, please. All those in favor, please signify. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Great, thank you. That motion passes. Next items on the agenda, variance appeal hearings. There is none. We're down to correspondence, petitions, and delegations. Andrea.
Yes, Chair Russell. With respect to correspondence, there was correspondence received for items 10.1.1 and 10.1.2. With respect to petitions, the clerk's office has received no petitions for this week's meeting.
Okay, thank you. And so if any members of council have a petition? And I don't see any. Okay, thank you. There are no presentations at this time. There are no information items brought forward. So we are on to staff reports. We're on to 13.1.1, case 20401, updating the planning. That one is item 13.1.1, which has been removed from the agenda. So 13.1.2, case 23622. Councillor Blackburn, would you mind assuming the chair?
Not a problem, sir. Thank you very much. So yes, moving on to item 13.1.2. This is amendments to development agreement for lands at Walker Service Road, Lower Sackville. And Councillor Russell, if you want to put the motion on the floor, go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to do that. I have just lost it for a second. So I would move that Northwest Community Council give notice of motion to consider the proposed amending development agreement as set out in attachment A of the October 13th, 2021 staff report to allow a non-substantive agreement to an existing development agreement extending the commencement date for the building construction.
Second, Tim.
Do we have a seconder?
Seconded
Tim. By Deputy Mayor Absid. Beautiful, thank you. You wanted to speak to that, Councillor Russell?
I don't have very much to add to this. Simply, I am in favor of this development and this proposal as it is. This is a non-substantive change that affects the timelines minimally. I normally, at this point, don't support pushing the timelines too far to the right, but absolutely in favor of this motion. So would ask for your support. Thank you.
All right, beautiful. Any other speakers to this item? I don't see anybody else in the chat.
Question?
Question has been called for. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Thank you very much. And I'll hand it back over to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. So we are on to item 13.1.3, case 20110, rezoning and development agreement for an open space design development along Wingate Drive in Beaverbank. Would someone like to put the motion on the floor, please? Is this Councillor Daigle-Gammon or Councillor Blackburn?
This would be Councillor Daigle-Gammon, I think.
Okay.
It's sort of a 50-50 split.
Sure.
50.
Yeah.
Okay. I would make the motion that the Northwest Community Council 1 give first reading to consider approval of the proposed amendment to Schedule 1C of the land use bylaw for Beaverbank, Hammonds Plains, and Upper Sackville, as set out in Attachment A of the October 5th, 2021 staff report to rezone approximately 19.6 hectare, 48.5 acre of land along Gate Drive between Capilano Estates and Monarch Riverdale subdivisions in Beaverbank to the MU1 Mixed Use 1 zone and schedule a public hearing. And 2, give notice of motion to consider the proposed development agreement as set out in Attachment B of the October 5th, 2021 staff report and schedule a public hearing. The hearing for the development agreement shall be held concurrently with the hearing required for the proposed rezoning set out in recommendation 1 above. So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Blackburn. Thank you very much. Are there any questions about this? If so, please indicate here or in the chat.
I have a question, if I might, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Councillor Daigle-Gammon.
My question, and this is probably just, it's a matter of establishing due process and moving this along. So, but the question about the hearing for the development agreement is held concurrently with the hearing required for the proposed rezoning. If I could just, if staff could give me a little bit of clarity on why it's held concurrently.
Go ahead, Thea.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, Councillor. Yes, so this is a proposed conservation design subdivision that covers an area of about 150 hectares, and it's for about 375 units. And that includes both single unit dwellings and senior citizens housing. Now, in order to consider the land use, which is senior citizens housing, the underlying zone would have to permit that use. And in order to, right now, the underlying zone is industrial, and that would not permit senior citizens housing. So in order to consider the senior citizens housing, we need to place a zone on those lands that would allow that use, and then consider the development agreement on top of that. So the reason they're being done concurrently is that will allow council to consider the project as a whole, which is the development agreement that will contain all of the details about the subdivision. And then the rezoning is to allow that specific use, which is the senior citizens housing in the form of townhouses and multis, as well as single unit dwellings that aren't specifically designed for seniors. Hopefully that answers that question.
It does. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Blackburn.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councillor Daigle-Gammon, for that question. That was going to be my question, but I just also wanted to clarify, because I saw some conversation publicly online today about this project, and we are not deciding on this project at all tonight. There was some indication online that this was going to be a done deal after this meeting. We are just basically setting the table for the next step of the process, and that next step includes the public hearings. So to those folks who may be listening online or watching the videos, that is the next step, is to get the public's opinion on this project, and you will be amply notified and be given plenty of time to give your feedback and speak publicly about this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't see any further questions about this. So all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Great, thank you. That motion passes. We are on to 13.1.4, case 22732, development agreement for lands off Kenwood Avenue, Hammonds Plains, Would you like to put the motion on the floor, Councillor Lovelace?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I move that Northwest Community Council give notice of motion to consider the proposed development agreement as set out in attachment A of the October 14th, 2021 staff report to enable a 19-unit seniors housing development off Kenwood Avenue in Hammonds Plains and schedule a public hearing.
Thank you. Do we have a seconded by Councillor Blackburn? Go ahead, Councillor Lovelace.
Thank you, Councillor Blackburn. So this proposal has taken a few different turns. We've seen, a wonderful amount of community consultation, community feedback. The applicant has made adjustments to the proposal a couple times. I know that there has been some confusion around the use of Kenwood itself to connect into the community and the impact to Crestfield and Hammonds Plains Road with the added vehicles. I've also heard from residents who are concerned about the use of the term seniors housing and whether or not, it could actually be seniors housing. Even though it's marketed that way, will we end up having, families there and young children? So, that has always been an ongoing concern whenever we talk about seniors housing development. We do know that we need seniors housing. We need apartments for seniors. We need more diversity in the housing stock overall in the Hammonds Plains area. And I do think that, that the applicant has done a good job to make some adjustments, including the walking trail around the area. And I am concerned, though, with what it means to to that Crestfield area with regards to added traffic. But I'm wondering if staff can answer just a couple of questions that I have. One is regarding the lands designated for the Nova Scotia housing development and whether or not that is accurate as being Nova Scotia, is it Metro Housing, or I'm not sure what they're calling themselves now, or is this land that was set aside for some kind of affordable housing, accessible housing? I'm not sure. And another comment that I wanted to ask is, or just mention, is around ambulance noise. That's something that I've heard, community members concerned about whether or not we'd have added ambulance noise. And my understanding is, this is not long-term care facility. This is not, seniors housing that is a care facility. So we're not talking about individuals who are in, let's say, a hospital bed, for example. These are folks who are, moving about they just want to stay in the community. So I just wanted to make that clear. But the question that I do have for you, for staff, when we talk about market-based rental housing, I think depending on who we ask, what is market-based rental housing, you're going to get a different answer depending on what part of the city you're in, what part of the province or the region you're in. So I'm just wondering whether or not staff can clarify, do we have a definition for what market-based rental housing actually is? Because I think we have a different understanding when it comes to affordability. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Thea.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The councillor raises a whole range of different questions. What I can do is ensure that if council so chooses to move this to a public hearing, that staff will ensure that we capture the information and provide you with the information through that public hearing process with regards to traffic and how the project is designed for seniors, those elements that the councillor has mentioned. We do not, but the there is a couple things we could probably answer quite quickly for you at this particular stage in the process. We don't have a definition of that. I can look into that in more detail for you, Councillor, in preparation for the public hearing. And also with regards to the ambient noise, again, this proposal is for housing that is designed for seniors in the form of townhouses. It's not housing that's being proposed like a nursing home where you would possibly see additional trips from an ambulance perspective. But again, those are some of the things we can cover off through our presentation during a public hearing if council so wishes.
Can I just ask one more question, please, Mr. Chair?
You have 10 seconds.
Thank you. Just if staff can speak to why it is that we cannot consider this proposal with the other proposal that's happening on Crestfield. Because the community is concerned with the traffic that's happening, or the addition of traffic to Crestfield Drive. So I just would like to have a clarification at this time, at this moment, if you could speak to the differences in those proposals and why we can't consider them simultaneously.
They're at different stages in the planning process. This particular application has already had its internal review, has made some modifications to its design through the consultation process with the public, as well as it has gone to Northwest Planning Advisory Committee for a recommendation. The other property, which is at the corner of Hammonds Plains and Crestfield, that's early on in the process. We haven't even done engagement yet. We're in the process of getting that ready to do so. So they're just at two different stages in the planning process, and we wouldn't want to hold one up for the other. But while we are going through our planning process, we are aware and we do consider both projects as we move forward.
Thank you. Can I have one more second, please, Mr. Chair?
There is nobody else asking to speak, so go ahead.
Thank you so much. I'm wondering if staff can speak to the placement of this particular proposal with regards to the restricted growth area, because it appears to not be within the Schedule J for the restricted growth of Hammonds Plains. Is that correct?
So, Mr. Chair, the Schedule J is tied to single unit dwellings and the creation of new roads. This is not a new road, and it is for townhouses that are designed for seniors. So different set of circumstances. But we will double check to see where it falls within Schedule J. But again, Schedule J is linked to new roads and single unit dwellings.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I appreciate this.
Okay, not a problem. Thank you very much. I don't see any further questions for staff. So
Question?
All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Great, thank you very much. That motion passes. Next item on the agenda is 13.2 with members of Northwest Community Council. This one always confuses me. Motions, there are none. There is nothing in camera. There are no added items. Notices of motion. Not seeing anybody move. The next item is public participation. And as a reminder to those watching from home, in order to have signed up as a speaker, the deadline was 4:30 p.m. the business day prior to the meeting, which was November 5th, and we have no speakers signed up for today's meeting. So the date of the next Northwest Community Council meeting is scheduled for December 13th, 2021. And can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion to adjourn.